Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. Sorry I'm a little late, but I've been trading the earnings and I've also been on the radio trying to, talk through. Basically, if you want, just take a look at the note that I put on the Twitter sphere, I think like at 10 o'clock today, talking about different earning strategies and what there could be room with and what to do, et cetera, et cetera. My disclosures are there also. And basically, a lot of them actually wound up working out. Some of them a little bit more than others, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, before we get into the after-hour earnings, you look here at the chart of the S&P cash. Still hanging around. Here is your descending trend line that we broke above on Monday. Okay, wound up holding it on Tuesday and gapping a little bit higher. Now here we are building a little bit of a bull-type flag ahead of this 2400. Yesterday you had a little cute, had like dual red dog reversals if you were really active. What do I mean by that? Well, yesterday it traded above this high here, put a point of reference in, came back below, and then wasn't much downside, and you could have made peanuts short, and then today went below this, came back above it. But all in all, you have an inside range developing. The longer it stays above this spot here, which is like 2381, the higher the probability it'll take out this 2400. The IWM also held that 140, still hanging around. Why do I think it's important? Just because this is your prior breakout area, holding above it's good with a little bit of time. As long as it stays above that, keeps the power there. It's letting the moving averages catch up, etc. The banks were a little weaker today, but had a decent bounce. Talked about accumulating some Bank of America. So if you were on the VTF, you did see that here. The low was what, 23.59? What was the low here? Ooh, 23.62, pretty close. I didn't buy the XLF, but I did buy more Bank of America. At this point, maybe a little sideways action, and then that can continue. This broke its descending trend line right there. So let's go into the earnings. Microsoft, way too big of a move. I didn't care really what they came out with. I figured it would be priced in. There wasn't really a good trade there. But it'll probably be good over time. I think there was 73 cents. But if you look at the size of the move that it had, leading into it, it just needs a little bit of time. Just too extended. It needed a little bit more for that to work itself out. Intel, I'm a little surprised. I am in some calls, okay, for next Friday. I thought perhaps a strong, report and good guidance would break this above 38. Thank goodness we bought it correctly. When Intel was down this morning on the VTF, I bought in the money calls. I think the 36s was able to sell some. I think I bought them for like $1.10, sold some $1.60 today, so it was a free play. But, depending on if it gets bought tomorrow, it could be worthless. We'll watch that tomorrow. Big buyback. They got it up. So I don't think, I think they're just selling it off, but it didn't really have so much of a move where I think it should be punished. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. My real focus was two ways. One, to play Amazon for a little bit of a breakout above 9:15, pre-earnings report, and then post-earnings report. Okay, this was your pivot right there, 9:23. I was trading it after hours with the VTF. Obviously, I'm not on Twitter. You can't tweet and and trade and do all those things at one time. It just doesn't happen. So, just in case it wasn't conducive for a good trade, if it gapped up, whatever, we had the 950s. On this day, if you were watching the recap or on my note, you saw me I bought the 950s for like 270. So coming into today, sold some for like somewhere between 5 and 8 because I sold a few. And now tomorrow we'll see what happens. It needed to have a really big split alongside a big earnings for it to be a home run and be like 980 or 1,000. Instead, the implied vol of the move was around 960, so that's probably going to contain the move. So two things. I did send out a tweet a little while ago. I think it's trading 962, 963. If you bought the 950s for 2 and change when we did, what you could do is if you don't want to wait till Friday, or wait till the morning at 9:30 when it opens, you could short the stock. Like just say you bought 10 calls, you could short 1,000 shares at 962. Okay, that'll lock you in at 962, which will give you 12 points above 950. So if you paid 2 and change, you're locking in 9 points, and then just sit on it. And then over the weekend, okay, you'll deliver because we had calls for tomorrow, so there's no time. The calls will cover your short if you're waiting for it. If you just want to wait till tomorrow for all the upgrades to come in, that's cool too. But if you're dancing around like, oh my goodness, I don't want to go back to 950 because then it's a zero. Here you are, it's at 960 to 963. accumulated short only versus the amount of calls that you have, and then you have yourself a nice trade. Google, really impressive report. I did not play it. I did not trade it. I thought perhaps it'd be too tough with the move that already transpired from here, or from when it woke up down there, or when it took out the highs here. So I just let it go. It's like at 922. If you're in it, congratulations. I'm not sure what I put as the price target for this one in the Redler report, but I have that as a pretty lofty one. I also had Amazon at 1,000. Anyway, if you're still holding it from the report, because some of you guys just take 10 positions and hold them, congratulations. Facebook is also up in sympathy with, what's it called, the Google report. I know guys like DP on the virtual trade floor and a few others said that they're going to buy calls, for Facebook so they could play Google indirectly, and that's up. So you'll see, you could do the same kind of short play too. If you're short the call, if you want to short and lock it in and deliver the calls for, over the weekend versus waiting until 9:30 just in case, you could do that too. All in all, congratulations if you're an investor. Congratulations if you're a trader. This was the last time I've ignited. It is what it is. I'm kind of in a bad mood because you always think about how much more you could have of these things when they actually happen. But anyway, look at that move in Facebook. Baidu came out with numbers. At face value, it looked like it beat handily, and then it announced some management changes. So then it got hit. That's when I was walking in here, so I'm not sure where it is now. We'll see what happens. From what it sounded like, management was switching to other parts of the business, and rearranging, so I don't think it's the end of the world. But so I know when I was walking out here, it was like 180. I was trying to bid it at 180. It wouldn't go down, and then it was like 183. Let me just see what Baidu is now, just to see if, they didn't care about it, or if they did. Baidu is, oh wow, down 9. Hopefully I still don't have my bids there. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll see how that affects, Baba tomorrow. I don't think people are too worried about, whether or not Baba's going to have a management change. But, psychology-wise, if there's something spooky at one of these companies, it could be at another. If you're in the options, which is why we take options, you're going to have a 0 unless something changes. So at this point, I did not take the Baba option. The Baidu options. I'm sitting a little Baba though, common-wise. The only thing I did option-wise for all these earnings, I thought the best setup was Amazon, and then we traded Amazon after hours, and actually until 2. But whatever. So here we are. We have a bunch of mixed things going on. The spiders were flattish after hours. We'll see if tomorrow it could hold in there again, meaning like hold this spot, go sideways, and then continue. We shall see. At this point, we have a few points of reference, nice upper flag. The longer this holds here, the higher the probability it goes. We'll see what psychology wins. Does Google and Amazon, that are at all-time highs with Facebook, beat out, Microsoft, that might need a little time, and Intel, which I do think should be buyable at some point tomorrow. So again, lots of earnings, lots of different ways to play it. Hopefully you did well. They're all not going to work out, and as far as the market's concerned, we'll see if this 2381 holds, and can we extend in the future. Have a good night. Tomorrow's Friday, and it's been a long week.